The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and Your Sports Network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. If you're in the market for a brand new or slightly used automobile, before you make that commitment, and believe me, kids, it would be a commitment, a very large commitment, depending on how much money you're spending. Before you make that commitment, you owe it to yourself and your wallet to make a trip to Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Been saying it for months. There are three things that a dealership must have in order to be a great dealership. You have to have a terrific sales department, a terrific finance department, and a fantastic service department. And the folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown have all three. They have all three of them. So if you're in the market for a brand new or slightly used automobile, before you make that very large financial commitment, you need to check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. With you till 3 o'clock, at which time DJ and the boys will have Power Hour. So we had plenty of basketball on the network last night, girls basketball. I had a game in Crestview between Crestview and Camel. Game was pretty much over pretty early in the contest. Crestview outscored Camel 20-2 in the first quarter. They had a 36-4 lead at the end of the first half, 59-8. At the end of the third quarter, they defeat Camel last night by the final score of 72-13. Krista Perry led all scorers with 14 points. Very balanced efforts, very solid effort by the Rebels. Camel was missing more than a handful of kids, and it was a tough night. Very, very tough night for Camel, as the Rebels pick up their 10th victory of the season. Now 10 wins and 7 losses on the campaign. Newton Falls knocked off Liberty last night, 52-48. I saw a great game for McDonald High School. West Branch knocked off McDonald 54-51. I think a lot of people were looking to see if that game was going to be as legit as the matchup on paper, and it proved to be so, as West Branch picked up their 14th victory of the season. And again, kudos to both teams. Look, I mean, if you're a Division II team and you're trying to get a really, really tough non-conference schedule, doesn't necessarily mean that you got to stay in Division II and jump up one more level to Division I. If you can find a really, really good Division III or Division IV program around these parts, you can absolutely test your team, even though you're 1 or 2 divisions bigger. As it were the case last night, West Branch 2 divisions bigger than McDonald, but arguably it's the best Division IV team in this area, and arguably it's one of the best Division IV teams in northeastern Ohio. So it's a no-brainer. That's a solid non-conference game, and West Branch was able to get a victory over McDonald. Likewise, at McDonald, you're challenging your kids. and I've said this so many times on this show, it is so important, especially if you believe you have a team that is going to make a lengthy tournament run. You owe it to this team to basically challenge them. And this was a challenge. You know, you're a Division IV school, and you're going up in weight a couple of classes to take on a really good West Branch team. There's no question that was a big time challenge, and McDonald's only going to get better because of that big time challenge. So congratulations to both teams. West Branch knocking off McDonald, and they improve their record to 14-4. McDonald falls to 10-2. South Range getting a victory over Girard. Poland getting a victory over Hubbard. These two teams are on a collision course to play each other 2 times in the NE8. I know that they were supposed to have played and were in the process of playing very early in their game against South Range, and that's when Izzy Lampardi hit her head off the floor and suffered a really bad concussion, and obviously the game was not completed because of that horrible event, and we certainly hope that Izzy is doing really, really well. Austintown Fitch getting a victory over Youngstown East, and it was a good night over in the EOAC. I thought Leetonia played a solid game last night against Southern. Ashley Schroeds, the phenom freshman, there was a lot of talk what she would be able to do against Leetonia. She only scored 12 points, and that's a testament to the Bears' defense. Ella Gregorino, Taryn Ferry, they combined for 29 points, lots and lots of rebounds. Just a solid win for the Bears as they get a 21-point decision over Southern last night. One boys basketball game, and I made mention that this was going to be a very difficult game for Valley Christian. Look, Wellsville has an amazing home court advantage. Now, why they have that home court advantage, I'm not going to necessarily get into the theory of that. There are some people that believe that you're not only facing Wellsville, you're also facing the 2 or 3 officials. I don't necessarily buy that, but there is a really nice home field advantage with Wellsville. And last night, that home field advantage was on display as Wellsville knocked off Valley Christian last night, 61-54. Valley Christian suffers their second loss in the EOAC. They're back at it. They have a back-to-backer as they will be hosting Columbiana tonight up in Youngstown. So that's no rest for the weary for Valley Christian. Now, the good news for them, they're back home. They'll be taking on Columbiana, and we'll see what happens tonight when they take on the Clippers. Lots of games on the network tonight. One junior high basketball game that will start at 5:30 this afternoon. Buckeye Local will be traveling to Edison. This is the conference that East Liverpool and Beaver Local are in. Both of these schools are in the same conference as Buckeye Local, Edison, some other really, really very good basketball schools in this conference. But this is a junior high game beginning at 5:30 this afternoon at Edison High School. Girls basketball, varsity only, and this will be prior to the varsity only game tonight in United, varsity boys basketball game. The girls will get started at 5:30. United is hosting Wellsville. United hosting Wellsville. This will be the girls game. This replaces the JV game. So girls varsity basketball beginning at 5:30 at United. That game will be broadcast on the network tonight. An intriguing matchup at Struthers at the iconic Fieldhouse. South Range will be traveling to Struthers to take on the Wildcats. Very entertaining matchup at Cheney High School. This will be the first meeting between Ursuline and Cheney. This could be a fun game tonight. This game will be played on the west end of town. Camel is visiting Crestview. I'll be with Larry Scraggs. Broadcasting this ball game tonight. Camel taking on Crestview. Crestview's a banged-up basketball team. Tony Perazio is out, and so is Jack Yerke. So this is a banged-up Crestview team. We'll see what they can do against Camel. Niles visits Girard in the NE8. Brookfield will be at LeBray. Leetonia will travel to Lisbon to take on the Blue Devils. Both teams are headed in opposite directions, or at least Friday night they were. Leetonia got a victory over East Palestine. Lisbon was defeated soundly in Valley Christian. Jackson Milton will travel to McDonald to take on the state-ranked McDonald Blue Devils. We'll get to the state rankings in a little bit. Jefferson is at Poland taking on the state-ranked. Nope, I take that back. Poland is not state-ranked. Struthers is. We'll get to that in a little bit. This should be an entertaining game in the MVAC Scarlet tier. Waterloo takes a trip to Springfield to take on the Tigers. All of these games, by the way, starting at 7 o'clock or a little before 7 o'clock, depending on how fast the JV games go. Wellsville is at United. The girls' varsity basketball game starts at 5:30. The guys' game will start somewhere around 7 o'clock. We made mention Valley Christian playing tonight. This is a back-to-backer. Last night they lost to Wellsville. Tonight they are home to Columbiana. Game time at approximately 7 o'clock. Sebring will travel to Western Reserve. Warren JFK will go to Salem. And Austintown Fitch visits Louisville. That game starts at 7:30, which means the JV game gets underway at about 6 o'clock. The varsity game getting underway somewhere around 7:30. Those are the games on the network tonight, and we certainly hope that you will tune in. Go to ysnlive.com, click on your favorite school, and you can watch the action, no charge, thanks to the good folks at WRS Wealth Advisors. They put forth a really, really nice contribution, giving everyone an opportunity to see basketball games at no charge. Unlike football season, where we were doing a pay-per-view, thanks to WRS Wealth Advisors, no charge is necessary. And again, we thank the great folks at WRS Wealth Advisors, who, by the way, are a sponsor of Open Look every Friday here at the studios of YSN. All right, couple of teams that are in the boys' state rankings. I guess Struthers and McDonald, being that there are two of only 4 teams left in all of northeastern Ohio with undefeated records, I guess it's now time for them to get a little bit of respect. Struthers makes the top 10. They are now number 10 in the state of Ohio. I find it interesting that a 2-loss Akron-Buchtel team would be in front of them. Akron St. V's a 2-loss team, although St. V's probably has a tougher schedule than Struthers does. But be that as it may, Struthers has cracked the top 10. They are number 10 in the state of Ohio. McDonald is number 10 in the state of Ohio. They are 12-0, and the Blue Devils, as we mentioned, in action tonight, as are the Struthers Wildcats. And we'll see what McDonald and Struthers do tonight, as they are now officially in the top 10, according to the Associated Press. Those are the only 2 teams that were mentioned in the poll. I've been saying it all year. A lot of variables that go along with this. And, we'll have Doug Chapin on from the Tribune Chronicle. I mean, it's no secret. A few years ago, probably, about 3 or 4 years ago, this area had 4 votes because there were 4 newspapers that were separately owned. In Columbiana County, the Morning Journal and the Salem News each had a vote. They were separately owned. In Mahoning County, the Vindicator had a vote. In Trumbull County, the Tribune Chronicle had a vote. 4 outstanding newspapers. Now, over the last 4 years, the Journal and the Salem News have combined. Well, those 2 votes are now 1 vote. The Vindicator and the Tribune Chronicle are under the same umbrella. So those 2 votes are now 1 vote. So you've turned 4 votes from our area down to 2 votes because the two papers in Columbiana County are under the same umbrella, and the two papers in Mahoning and Trumbull County are under the same umbrella as well. That's the reason why we're not getting, one of the reasons why we're not getting a large amount of teams or a bigger amount of teams from our area in the AP poll. The other reason is the fact that reputation goes a long way, and, well, if you want to change the reputation, well, you got to do a better job in the tournaments. And hopefully, as we have done so the last 4 years, we have improved year after year for the last 4 years. I know our record against out-of-town teams in the sectional, in the districts, and in the regionals have improved every year the last 3 or 4 years. And I would expect both the boys and girls to be much improved again this year. Then at the end of the day, win some games, get some teams to make some deep tournament runs, and you'll have more representation in this area. The sad reality is, and I've been banging on this drum for a while, but it's the truth. The sad reality is, this area is not known for basketball. Used to be. When I was a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, we had some teams that won state championships. We had some teams that went to Columbus. Not very, not every year, but we had some teams that went to Columbus. And we had plenty of teams that went to the regionals and made a deep run. This last 20-some-odd years, not so much. Yeah, not so much. And I think one of the reasons why is, the exodus of people from the Mahoning Valley. We've lost 60% of our population since Black Monday. And for those of you that weren't around back then, I was a teenager when the steel mills shut down. It was tough. And unfortunately, back in the early 70s, you had six public high schools in Youngstown: Wilson, Cheney, Rayen, North, South, and East. And then you had the two parochial schools, Mooney and Ursuline. You had an 8-team city series. Well, now you have two high schools, Cheney and East. And you recently got a second high school. I mean, it's tough. It's very difficult. And back in the day, now this was long ago. They used to do AAA, AA, and Class A. Now it's Division 1, 2, 3, and 4. Division 1 being the equivalent of AAA. Division 2, kind of a cross between low AAA teams and high AA teams. Division 3, kind of a cross between low AA and high Class A teams. And Division 4, the rest of the Class A teams, the small to medium-sized Class A teams. Well, back in the day, AAA basketball, we had our own tournament. There were plenty of schools that were from the area that were AAA. And that's simply not the case now because, as I mentioned, 60% of the Mahoning Valley left in the days, weeks, months, and years to follow Black Monday. And unfortunately, we've never really gotten ourselves to have the area back to the population that it once was. I mean, believe it or not, Youngstown, Ohio used to be a top 100 TV market. Nowhere near that now, but it used to be a top 100 TV market. Now, you got to go back a ways, but think about this. There are 3 network television stations in Youngstown, and there was a reason for that. Youngstown was a pretty large city. The Mahoning Valley was a pretty large area, and with a very large area comes families with kids, and with kids comes the possibility of having more talent, and with the possibility of having more talent comes the fact that you're going to have a better product on the field or on the court or on the diamond. And unfortunately, with the exodus of population, the talent, maybe not as much, at least in basketball. I would still say that football and baseball, we do a very nice job, but basketball, for whatever reason, up until recently, it hasn't gone very well. Now, the good news is we're getting a whole lot better. And we've talked a lot about this. It's a situation where I think AAU is finally starting to catch on, and we got some great coaches in the area, and basketball has become an enjoyable sport to watch. It's become a very entertaining product, and we're getting a whole lot better. And I look forward to the upcoming tournament because I believe we are going to have a lot more representation this year than in previous years. That is for certain. All right, so we can talk a little bit about that if you wish. Last night I had after watching the Crestview game against Camel, you had an opportunity to watch LeBron James come back home. Now, LeBron's a Laker, and he's left Cleveland not once but twice. And look, I mean, a lot of Cavs fans don't really have a regard for LeBron James anymore. I'm not going to go that far. He's a former Cavalier. He led the team to a NBA championship in 2016. And truth be told, without him, Cavs are probably still looking for their first championship ring, and more importantly, looking for relevancy. LeBron James did an awful lot with the Cavaliers. Now that he's gone, I don't wish him ill will, but, when he plays the Cavaliers, I hope the Cavs shut him down. Last night was not a shutdown moment, although I will say, very entertaining game. Cavaliers were actually leading the Lakers at the end of the third quarter, and then LeBron put on a show in the final quarter, and the Lakers get the victory over the Cavaliers last night. LeBron finished somewhere north of 40 points. It was a fantastic game last night. I thought the Cavaliers did a exceptional job of playing against the defending NBA champs. And for those that still believe, the Cavs they're a nobody. I'm going to disagree strongly. This is a team that I believe will not only be a playoff team. This is a team that I believe is going to create a lot of havoc in the Eastern Conference. And I think that the rebuilding program that the Cavaliers are doing right now is absolutely fantastic. And we bring up the rebuild because here we are in late January, and we're 19 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting. Although there's a report that Arizona might be starting their spring training a little late. Apparently, Maricopa County, which is the county that all of the spring training locations are in. Maricopa County is by far and away the largest county population-wise in the state of Arizona. I think it's half the population, and it's a large part of the state of Arizona. Phoenix is in Maricopa County, and all of the spring training facilities out west in Arizona are in Maricopa County. Apparently, there's an outbreak of COVID, and they're petitioning Major League Baseball to not start spring training on time, to go a couple of weeks back to where instead of mid-February, that it would be somewhere in late February where they would congregate and do the stuff. But unofficially, officially, somewhere around 19 days, less than 3 weeks, pitchers and catchers report. And normally I'm all geeked up for baseball. And, unfortunately, and Pirates fans are in the same boat with this, unfortunately. Both the Indians and the Pirates have pretty much raised the white flag. The Indians in the offseason trading away Francisco Lindor got a pretty nice haul back, long-term, not short-term, but a pretty nice haul back potentially from the New York Mets. In the last couple of days, the Pirates have traded away some talent as well. yesterday or a couple of days ago, I'm sorry, Jameson Taillon was the latest member of the Pittsburgh Pirates to be dealt away. And we'll see how this transpires. This morning, I caught wind of a legitimate discussion that's going on between the Indians and the Atlanta Braves regarding Jose Ramirez. And I thought about this for a little bit, and it dawned on me a couple of things. Number one, go back to the Lindor trade for a second. Rosario and Jimenez. Rosario can play third base. Jimenez can play second, short, and third. Keeping that in mind, okay, you could trade away Jose Ramirez. The other thing that I thought of was, well, you've already gotten this far. You've already traded away or refused to sign some very important pieces to the past, the not too distant past. I mean, after all, it was 5 years ago that the Indians were in the World Series. Wasn't that long ago. Ramirez, if they deal him, because of his very friendly contract, Ramirez could bring back an awful lot. And I think the Indians are exploring that, mainly because, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday and last week, Lindor's gone, Santana's gone. Who do you got left in this lineup? Well, you got Jose Ramirez, okay. You got Franmil Reyes, okay. You got Oscar Mercado. You got Roberto Perez, all right. You don't have a whole lot of power. You don't have a whole lot of run-producing guys. And if you're going to trade Ramirez, you'd probably want to do it now. Because Ramirez isn't going to see a pitch this year. Let me let everyone in on this little secret here. Ramirez won't see a pitch this year. There's not a team in Major League Baseball, if Jose Ramirez is still an Indian, that's going to want to pitch to this guy. He's probably the only guy in this lineup, other than Franmil Reyes, who is going to be guaranteed to do some damage. The other guys aren't. The other guys are prospects. Now, Mercado is a little bit more than a prospect. I mean, he did it for 1 year, but he's not a certainty. You have to remember, the thing that you must remember about Major League Baseball, nobody's a certainty. Nobody is a proven commodity in the game of baseball unless you've done it 2 or 3 times in a row. Then we'll start talking about you being a proven commodity. And if you use that particular theory, Ramirez is the only proven commodity on this offense. All right, Franmil Reyes getting there. He's been in the game, 2 or 3 years. And he has a proven commodity of hitting home runs. Not so much of batting average, but a proven commodity of hitting home runs. Ramirez is the only proven commodity in terms of what kind of damage he can do in this lineup right now. And I'll repeat what I said. Who in their right mind is going to want to pitch to him? Nobody. If Ramirez stays in Cleveland, he's going to get walked 1,000,000 times. Nobody's going to pitch to this guy. And if that happens, Ramirez market value is going to go. It's going to go in the toilet because he's not going to put up numbers. He's not going to put up numbers because there's nobody protecting him in this lineup. So if the Indians are going to trade him, well, Nolan Jones can play third. I mean, if they decide that Nolan Jones is going to be an outfielder, which wouldn't be a bad decision because he's got a cannon for an arm, put him in right field or somewhere in the outfield, I think that would be a better decision. And to his credit, he's starting to learn how to play an outfield position. I would probably do that. Now, if Rosario can't cut the mustard or Jimenez can't cut the mustard at third base, then obviously Nolan Jones is my third baseman. But I'm on board with trading Jose Ramirez right now. And it's not because I don't like Jose. I love Jose Ramirez. But the truth is, the Indians, they're not going to have better market value for Jose Ramirez than right now. Because if Jose Ramirez is on this team, he ain't getting anything close to the strike zone. Not a damn thing. His market value is going to go down into the toilet if he stays in Cleveland. So if I'm the Indians, yeah, I got kids that can play third base. I got kids that can play shortstop. Look, Jimenez or Rosario going to be your starting shortstop. Now, there is talk. Cesar Hernandez is re-signed with the Indians. 1-year deal, club option for 1 year. And put him at second base, wonderful. And you have a first base battle between Bowers and Bobby Bradley and whomever. Have the Indians raised the white flag if they trade Ramirez? Absolutely they have. And it'll be a rebuild. And the team will probably not contend until 2023, 2024, somewhere in that vicinity. And the Indians fans would just have to sit back and, okay. And there are folks that, they're so blinded by their hatred toward Dolan that they're going to be pissy and moany and say, well, I'm just not going to watch this team until Dolan sells the team. Well, it's, okay. Use some baseball logic here. I don't want Ramirez to be dealt, but let's be honest. If you deal Jose Ramirez right now, you're going to get the best possible value for him. And if the Indians are not half-assing a complete rebuild, then do it. You just do it. Get it done with and do it. Atlanta's got a stacked farm system. I'm sure that the Indians can get a premium prospect in the outfield, a premium prospect on the mound, and a couple of other prospects for Ramirez. Yeah, Ramirez has that good of market value. There's no two ways about that. He signed through 2023 reasonably cheap. Now, this brings up the conspiracy theory that I'm kind of enjoying, although part of me is wondering if this conspiracy theory might be reality. Let's connect the dots here, and then we'll take a break. The TV deal is up at the end of the 2022 season. The stadium lease is up at the end of the 2022 season. If you trade away Jose Ramirez, your value of this baseball team in terms of your opening day payroll, next to nothing. And they could make that deal and say adios to Cleveland after 2022. I mean, if you think about it, maybe. It's a conspiracy theory. Everything is lined up. TV deal is up at the end of the 2022 season. Stadium lease is up at the end of the 2022 season. Yeah, a lot of things are pointing toward that. I don't think the Indians are going to do that, but makes for some interesting conspiracy theory talk as I try to look for my what am I looking for? The Reynolds wrap, so I could put it on my head. Tony, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's up, brother?
Hey, Ron. Hey, bunch of little anecdotes, if you don't mind. 1 year ago, at this period, a few weeks, I was out in L.A., spending some time in L.A., and a bunch of tragic things occurred.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not... we'll get to the Kobe thing in a minute, but the first one was I got a call from a friend wondering where the hell Ron Podesta was. So
Yeah, that was 1 year ago, 1 year and 1 week ago. It's interesting how when you're on Facebook, you have timelines and whatnot. And the last week, I saw a timeline. My late brother had his first heart attack. Oh gosh, 5 years ago. He had a heart attack three months after my mother had one, and they were both dangerously close to passing away. And as everyone pretty much who knows me knows, 5 years later my brother passed away. It'll be 2 years ago, February the 20th. He passed away of a heart attack, but his first one was 5 years ago. And then later in the week, I saw the timeline 1 year ago where I ended my relationship with iHeart, and that was kind of an interesting storyline in and of itself as well.
Okay, yeah. So you were much appreciated in that role, and I assume much appreciated in this role. We were at Grumman's Theater the morning that Kobe's plane went down, or a helicopter went down.
Yeah.
And people, I'm sorry, but people, I don't mean to sound callous, but people die, and I was never a giant Kobe fan. But you cannot believe, the pall that fell over the city at that, being out there. This guy was an icon there. This guy was worshipped out there.
Yeah.
And to see that kind of impact, it says a lot about his life.
Yeah, it sure does.
Maybe more than just as a basketball player, I guess.
Well, I think that Kobe had so many things going for him. He had just retired, and he had so many great things going for him post-NBA career. I remember my ex-wife, of all people, called me up and said, "Are you watching the news?" And I said, "No, what's going on?" She goes, "Kobe Bryant just died in a helicopter wreck." I'm like, oh my God! So I was consumed by the news that whole day, and it was weird because it was the week off before the Super Bowl, and everyone was getting all fired up for the Super Bowl between Kansas City and San Francisco, and I saw this, and it was on a Sunday, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just I felt like I was living in a nightmare. And then when the news broke that his daughter Gianna was in the helicopter, and that they were all going to a basketball tournament in the league that Kobe was very much a part of founding and getting the girls Gianna's age to learn how to play basketball. It just, oh my God, my heart broke when I saw that.
Yeah, and as a parent, you know what, you realize your mortality, but when it comes to your children, that's the most destroying thing. And to your brother Robert, to your parents. I understand.
It's horrible. It's you're conditioned as a parent. You're not supposed to be burying a child, and it's a horrible thought for any parent to deal with that. And then Kobe's widow, I can only imagine what's going in her mind today, and it's just a horribly somber event that I was so mesmerized and heartbroken at all of that when 1 year ago today when I just could not stay away from watching the TV and watching the news. It was just such a heartbreaking event.
Yeah, and I was out there just trying to get a glimpse of maybe a Terry Garr or Terry Hatcher or something. I don't know. The pervert that I am.
Well, listen.
I'll leave it at that.
Listen, I would have probably said something completely inappropriate toward her and had a.
We didn't have to go any farther than that, but yeah. In LA, trying to get a glimpse.
I would have had a 500-foot. You're not allowed to be within 500 foot of this person anymore.
Restraining order. Yeah. I'm sure they're spectacular, but whatever.
Yeah.
On Kobe, and you brought up LeBron, and we talked about this years ago in your previous life, that he's going to be in L.A. Is he under contract for 2 more years or 1 more year?
I think it's 2 more years.
Okay. He only needs, and he's averaging 25 too now. He only needs to be averaging 24 points for the next 2 years, and he doesn't seem to be fried, and they seem to be resting him appropriately to pass Jabbar. And let's remember the Lakers, and this is my opinion back then. He went to L.A. not only because he loves it out there, and if you got the money, it's the most magnificent place. And I think you'll agree with that.
Oh, absolutely.
But he also he got to go out there in the past. Wilt Chamberlain, Shaq, Kobe, and now eventually Jabbar, barring any serious injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes to the Mecca and or the Forum, whatever, I don't know, and solidifies his position in the Pantheon, I guess.
Well, listen, let me throw this out, as we all are.
I like all my references there.
Yeah, I kind of dug them, to be honest with you, Tony. But very good work, I might add. And I wanted to bring this up yesterday, as everyone worships the altar of Tom Brady because he's in his 10th Super Bowl. Let me remind everyone, LeBron James has played in 10 NBA Finals, just as many World Championship stages as Tom Brady. And yet people are still very hesitant to sit back and say what should be said, that LeBron James is, in fact, the greatest basketball player of all time, or on a very short list of the greatest basketball players of all time. We celebrate
if your metric is championships.
Yeah, I mean, we're celebrating the fact that Brady's is going to his 10th Super Bowl. Okay, well, we got a guy in professional sports right now that has played in 10 NBA Finals. There's a pretty good chance he's going to be playing in his 11th NBA Final. Where's the love for LeBron James? I mean, look, if you're gonna shower Tom Brady and call him the GOAT, which I don't necessarily agree with, although he's definitely in the top 5. You should probably be doing the same thing based on the same metric with LeBron James.
Yeah, well, and I'll say the same thing I said yesterday, go Kansas City. And then next year I'll have to pull against Kansas City because I don't need to see 3 in a row from Mahomes. So,
well, I mean, look, I'll be curious to see what the teams below Kansas City, and believe me, I think it's going to be an interesting offseason because Indianapolis is still a legit team on both sides of the ball.
With a quarterback, a first-tier quarterback, oh my gosh, they have Phillip Rivers at the end of his career, a solid quarterback.
Yeah.
A high second-tier, low first-tier quarterback in his prime. As an old age, they were a really, really, really good team.
You put Matthew Stafford.
Jonathan Taylor, 1 year better. That offensive line still solid as can be.
Yeah.
Leonard is going nowhere.
No.
And, by the way, the coach is going nowhere. And let's not forget this coach, how good he is.
You put Matthew Stafford and I shudder to think this one, Aaron Rodgers in Indianapolis, and that team goes immediately to the top of the classroom as the existential threat.
I agree with you, and the NFL is getting to be like the NFL, or the NBA, which has become like the AAU basketball, the premier AAU league of basketball, where you get together and you build these teams. And the Patriots have done it for years. Now the Kansas City. Anybody who's got talent can float out, and I'm not bashing Kansas City because they built their program from the ground up. But now that you're at the top, the free agents are going to take they're going to go to places like this on discounts to get a world championship.
Oh, of course, and I mean that's the value of being a championship caliber team.
That comment goes to your discussion about the Cavaliers rebuilding. Yeah, they can get to a certain point, but until they have that LeBron calling his buddies and saying, "Come here," it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, the only way, again, the only way the Cavaliers are going to be able to do this as a rebuild, Cleveland's not a destination for the NBA. It's not a destination for anybody because there's a reputation that the city of Cleveland is not very good, which I think is absurd because I think Cleveland is one of the coolest cities that I've ever lived in or ever been associated with. And I've pretty much gone to every single major city in America, and Cleveland is pretty special. I agree,
but waking up to Los Angeles sunshine
absolutely.
Every damn morning is a special thing.
Listen, Tony, you're preaching to the choir. I remember we had the winter meetings in Anaheim and flew into Los Angeles. Beautiful sunshine. It's LA is legit. I mean, it is a gorgeous city. Now, unfortunately, you pretty much have to make a ridiculous amount of money to be able to afford to live out there, and you have to realize that if you're planning on working at 9 o'clock, then you better leave your house at 5 in the morning because you're going to be late otherwise. The traffic is miserable in Los Angeles.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, one more reference to the Cavs, and it was something I was thinking about yesterday and didn't get to. And 3 years I was a season ticket holder at the Cavs, and I was obsessed with them. During the Hot Rod, Larry Nance,
that was
Doherty,
a fun
Price,
era. That was a fun era.
I just became obsessed with them. And what great drafting, what great trades, but I worry for the Bills that they're in a situation like the Cavs were, because damn it if the Cavs didn't fall through that crack that was left between the Pistons and the transition to the Bulls. And it was just sad. I mean, they were, in my opinion, they were the number 2 team behind the Pistons, and they were the number 2 team behind the Bulls. They couldn't get over that hump either way.
Yeah, I've wondered about that. And very Bean was just named Executive of the Year. Very well deserving.
That's what I hope the Bills don't run into. I'm sorry. That's to finish my thought. Go ahead.
I agree with you. I think that there's a window, but I think the window is only 2 years open to the end of Allen's rookie contract, and then you sign him to a deal, pay the man because you got to pay the man, and then hope and pray that there's enough salary cap space where you're going to be able to, spread the wealth and draft wisely and do all of this stuff. Buffalo, like Cleveland, it's not a destination. There are people that believe Buffalo's the armpit of the eastern part of the United States. Again, you take away the fact that of the obvious, it snows in Buffalo. No shit, it snows in Buffalo. Of course it does. It's in the north. It's next to Lake Erie. You're going to have a lot of snow in Buffalo, New York. There's no two ways about that. Buffalo, New York is also a gorgeous city. Now, unfortunately, it's not a free agent destination. Miami, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, those are destinations because the cities are magnificent and whatnot. But if you can draft well and you can, have the core of the team still together, I think that they'll be in good shape. But I'm with you.
But I don't think Tampa Bay is a destination either. And take AB for an example. He mixed every opportunity for the Bills to get him. Thank God. But boy, he ran to Tom Brady when Tom Brady called. Gronkowski came out of retirement to go down there and play for that AAU team.
Yeah, it's not a destination. I mean, it's a destination for old people, but it's also a destination if you have a living legend, and we'll just leave it at that. I mean, if a living legend decides
have enough here, come down here and we can get to the Super Bowl, and they believe him. And the other thing you want to get in Tampa Bay is Cubana sandwiches. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, and you go to Publix and have a great time in the grocery store because it's a great place to shop for groceries. But other than that, go play shuffleboard and hang out with the other geriatric people because that's what Tampa is. It's a community for old people.
One more comment about Tampa Bay, and it ties into your original comment about spring training. I used to go down there and just hang out and watch spring training. Go camp to camp, Braden, and then all the other camps down there, Phillies camps, and it was fun to watch these guys. St. Louis. I got to see. Oh my gosh, Ozzie Smith.
Yeah.
I was just to watch, not to watch him do anything, but just to watch him walk around in his presence and his attention to detail and his craft. It was amazing. But one thing I noticed about spring training is that a lot happens until the games start and they start ramping up. Can't spring training, let's say, take Cleveland for an example. They have the indoor facilities. They can bring these guys into Cleveland, and a significant portion of what they do in spring training, stretching out the arms, getting some BP practice in the cages, that can all start now locally.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, if you do that, then, and a lot of teams agree to doing that, then the states of Florida and Arizona lose a ridiculous amount of money. And, I mean, let's be honest, spring training.
They can go there after the 2-week delay to play the games.
Oh, I get that. No, I understand that. And I think that there's going to be a way around spring training being delayed for a couple of weeks or potentially delayed for a couple of weeks in Arizona. And I tend to believe that, what they'll do is on par with what you're saying, where everyone will be in Cleveland and they'll hang out for about a week or so and work indoors and do some things like that. But I'm still not convinced that Major League Baseball is actually going to take Maricopa County, the superiors in that county. I'm not sure they're going to take their advice. Knowing Major League Baseball and how stubborn they are, they'll probably just sit back and go, "We got this. Don't worry about it. We'll make sure that our players are tested," and they'll just essentially not even bother to go along with what Maricopa County is asking them to do.
Let me backtrack real quick to an anecdote from that when I saw Ozzie in spring training, real quick. And I was watching him, and he was standing outside the batting cages, and they cycle him in. You go like 2-3 rotations through the batting cage, and you go out and you relax, and you come back in. And at the time, they had an outfielder, and I don't even remember his name. I think it started with a B, a big bomber kind of guy. I forget. That's how forgettable he became. But his name Brzezinski or something like that.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You'll remember it. But a big power hitter, and he had a few good seasons. He was at St. Louis at the time. So he's standing outside the cage, and he's in the same rotation that Ozzie Smith is. Ozzie Smith, future Hall of Famer, arguably, one of the greats, not even arguably, one of the greats of all time. And the other guy, when he came out, Ozzie Smith grabs a bucket, goes into the cage, and starts picking up balls. This other guy's leaning on the fence, maybe smoking a cigarette with Tony La Rosa, I don't know, and drinking a beer. I really don't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
But Ozzie Smith jumps in, picking up balls.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That just meant I wish I had a child at the time who could have seen that. You know what I mean? The world doesn't revolve around you. Your craft developing your craft involves all kinds of efforts.
Yeah.
And one of those things you need to learn is be a good teammate.
Yeah, and humility is a wonderful thing as well. And Ozzie had all of that. That's I was blessed to, and I don't even know how the hell this happened. Major League Baseball must have really taken pity on me. In 95 or 96, the All-Star game was in Philadelphia. And I had an opportunity to cover the All-Star game for the radio station that I was working for in Youngstown. And I had an opportunity to interview Ozzie Smith. And for 15 or 20 minutes, we started talking about what he did on a day-in, day-out basis to perfect his craft in the field, and some of the things that he did growing up, and how soon he knew he had a gift where he would be able to play Major League Baseball. Just go through his entire career, where he started in San Diego and got traded away to St. Louis in that what was then an iconic deal involving an offensive-oriented shortstop in Gary Templeton, going from St. Louis to San Diego, and everyone thought, oh my God, St. Louis got hosed in this trade, and all they got was a guy that's got a decent glove. Gary Templeton was everything that you wanted in a shortstop, and in like 2 or 3 years, everyone realized that St. Louis knew what they were doing. And Ozzie was just one of those guys. I loved talking baseball with him. He wasn't a big leaguer in terms of, I don't want to talk to you because you're a nobody. He wasn't one of those guys, and that's so refreshing in the game now, where there are guys, and not just in baseball, there are plenty of people in sports that won't even give a person who's not involved in a major city the time of day, and Ozzie's not one of those.
From them, them.
Exactly, and Ozzie was just, Ozzie and Tony Gwynn were the two nicest guys I ever came across, and like Ozzie Smith, Tony Gwynn spent 15 minutes talking about hitting and talking about how Ted Williams told him that when you foul the ball back, you're supposed to smell the bat to see if the wood was burning, and if the wood was burning, that means that you were so close to squaring up the ball. And I looked at him, I was like, "Are you shitting me?" And he looked at me and he said, "No, I'm dead serious. That's Ted Williams was saying that." I'm like, "Okay, makes sense."
Wow, it's one of my favorite lines when I have the opportunity to coach kids. It goes straight back. I said, "You just missed it. You just missed it. You just missed squaring it up.
Yeah,
do the same thing. Relax. Just building confidence in these kids."
Yeah, when a kid fouls the ball straight back, I mean, he just missed squaring it up to get the meat on the
drive it somewhere.
Drive it somewhere, absolutely. Whether you're pulling the ball or going the opposite way, you just missed taking that ball and hitting it off the sweet part of the bat.
And that, you jogged my memory. You said the Phillies, and this is the last story, I promise. So it was the summer, and the Phillies have a minor league team in Clearwater, and so we were bored one night. I was down there, and we decided to go to a Phillies game. Now, I'm a Northerner, so I put a polo shirt on, nice and comfortable. And if we were 80 years old, I would have said band lawn. Remember that line?
Oh yeah.
I'd have put a band lawn on.
Yeah.
But, so we go down to the game, and I'm sitting in the stands. It's one of those 95% humidity type days.
Yeah, I'm all too familiar
with it. For all these
it.
people who think baseball should be played in the South, I sat in the stands, and I don't even know the movie reference, but I'm sure there's a movie where somebody was sitting there and sweat just started literally like cascading down their face. I don't think I made 2 innings, and I was every bit of clothing I was putting my socks was full of water, and we had to leave.
Yeah,
it was a hilarious scene. Too bad it was me it was against.
Look, I spent 2002 in the Florida State League, and I often wondered why is the attendance like 1,000 people per game? Why can't they draw more people? Well, you find out after a few weeks in the hot summer why people don't show up for minor league baseball games in the Florida State League.
Except for the really
tough.
Pretty girls and their scantily dressed pretty girls trying to snare themselves a future major leaguer.
The groupies, yeah, they exist, and the pass list is full of groupies, as it turns out. That's it.
Okay, but I'm going to let you get back to your show. See you later.
Appreciate it. See you. That's an aspect of minor league baseball that I definitely miss. You go out with the guys. You're on the road 5-10 days, and you go out with the guys. The first night, sometimes you go out, sometimes depending on how long the bus ride was to get there. Sometimes you don't go out the first night. A lot of folks will catch up on their sleep. But the second night, everyone starts going out, and you'll go to some different places. And by night 3, the pass list is pretty big sized. By night 4, it's a little bit longer, filled with girls' names and the clothing that they wear to get noticed is quite entertaining. That is a very interesting part of the game that I certainly loved dealing with outside of baseball. That was definitely one of my favorite opportunities of hanging out with the minor league kids, especially those that you knew you had a future in Major League Baseball. And the amount of people that wanted to be on those coattails was ridiculous. We'll take a timeout. On the other side, we will hear from Doug Chapin, Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator sports editor. He's coming up next. Stick around.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
telling more local stories
We'll look at
Baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley.
afternoon. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect
It's important for everyone.
No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
Before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Hi, this is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. It's Tuesday. It's a little past 1 o'clock. It's time to bring in Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin, who joins me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Doug, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Cannot complain. All right, last night, a marquee matchup, a non-conference marquee matchup in girls basketball. And kudos to both West Branch and McDonald for setting up this ball game. For McDonald, an opportunity to challenge their kids. D4 program going up in weight a couple of classes to take on a D2 program. And for West Branch, a really solid D2 program taking on a very, very solid D4 program. And that's not a bad non-conference game, to say the least. And both teams put forth an outstanding effort in their game last night.
Yeah, it's we've talked about this before, how it's always good to play the better teams in your non-conference situations. Since everybody makes the tournament, wins and losses don't matter that much. It might affect seeding a little bit, but yeah, that's always good for the good teams to play the good teams.
Yeah, and the game didn't disappoint. The Howard girls, Molly and Maddie, combined for 26 of the 51 points. West Branch got some balanced scoring along the way, and they held on. They beat McDonald 54-51. Well-played game on both sides.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what you expect out of those two programs. They're both have been good for some time and having good years this year.
You know, and you take a look at the upcoming tournaments, and I made mention in the first hour, and we've talked about this. The Mahoning Valley, 60% of the population is gone since Black Monday, 40 some odd years ago, and you know, it is what it is. We don't have any Fortune 500 companies in this area, and our population is what it is. Our schools are no longer as large as they once were, and because of that, the talent may not necessarily be there in some sports. And we have, in the last few years, prior to, I want to say the 90s and the early 21st century, basketball, more in the 21st century, basketball wasn't all that good. It fell off the cliff, if you will. But in the last couple of years, basketball is making a nice comeback where we're now starting to make inroads in terms of catching up to our bigger cities to the west and to the north in Cleveland and Akron and Canton. And I think that this year will be a really good year for boys and girls basketball when we take on some out-of-town teams.
Well, you know, that's part of it is, you know, seeing how well the good teams in an area are doing. But to really get to the point where you can consider your area really strong in sport, you need some depth there too. And you know, we're working on that. We're getting there, but you know, it's good, the progress the sport is making in the area. You know, there are a lot of things we talked about over the years that you know, that need to be done. That the AAU programs and that kind of thing. That and there's plenty of the youth stuff going on. Good teachers, good coaches out there who are working with kids. It's just not as, you know, if you talk to most 6th or 7th graders, you know, then I'm not sure about the difference between the two genders, but there aren't as many that are saying, yeah, basketball, that's what I want to do. And that's sort of, you know, you need that kind of that idea that the kids really want to play that sport as they get older. But yeah, it's made progress in the last few years, and you know, hopefully that we have a good season this year and come tournament time, because that's what helps is when a team makes a run, a school makes a run, the younger kids in that school district, you know, get excited about it, and you're going to have some more interest for a few years. The tough part is to keep that going, so that you have you know, continue that success. And one of the things about basketball too, because there are so few kids, so few people playing in it at a time, 5 on the floor at a time, as you go from 7th grade to 8th grade to 9th grade, the numbers drop quite a bit, because the kids who are, you know, players 8 through 12 on the 7th grade team don't go out in 8th grade, and the kids who are, you know, aren't playing in 8th grade don't go out in 9th grade. And by the time you get to high school, you don't have a lot of kids left. And if you have a class or 2 in a row that just don't have very good basketball talent, that really hurts your program. When they get to the high school level, you get to a point, and you see it all the time. Teams, you know, might have 1 senior or no seniors on the team, and just a couple of juniors, and they're playing a lot of sophomores and freshmen. So that's a big factor too. That because so few play, see playing time, you get a dropout factor that is more steep than some of the other sports.
And then you turn around and you're starting to play with athletes rather than basketball players, and there's nothing wrong with that. And the conversation that I would love to really have with a bunch of ADs and coaches and whatnot is convincing kids that being a one sport specialty is a bad idea. I mean, what I mean by that is, okay, if you're putting all your eggs in a basket and trying to get a football scholarship and you're all about football, okay, that's all well and good. After football season, you should probably think about going out for basketball, or if there's a wrestling team, going out for wrestling, because both of those sports can keep you in shape and can get you working on different aspects of the game of football that you wouldn't think you would need worked on. For example, in basketball, the hand-eye coordination. the going back and forth up and down the floor. So the cardio is phenomenal. You can still lift weights in the off-season conditioning program of football and continue to play basketball. If you're wrestling, the balance, especially if you're an offensive or a defensive lineman, the balance that is involved, balancing in wrestling and working on your core. There's plenty of things that you can work on by not playing after your season is over, by going out for a completely different sport.
Oh, I certainly agree, and that's one of the factors too. But I still think it's a numbers thing with basketball that kids see early on. Well, I'm not going to be, get a chance to play as I get older, and you could say, well, they should work harder, try harder. Well, these are kids. These are junior high age kids. That's a really tough thing to get them to do. Even in our age, back then, it was hard to, get kids to just say, I'm going to work my hardest and, that kind of thing. But, in say soccer or baseball, there's 11 or 9 playing at the time, all the time. So, everybody's got a chance to be out there. At basketball, there's only 5, and if you do a quick look when you're in 9th grade, you do a quick look to see who's in the grades ahead of you and the grades behind you. You might see 7 or 8 pretty good basketball players. So, you might think, well, I'm not going to be able to play, so, I'll never have a chance, so I'm just not going to go out. Plus, I don't know how popular it is, and I don't know how much college teams and professional teams have to do in the thinking of kids as to what sport they like, or what sports they want to take part in. But that might play a factor too. I'm curious to see whether the interest in basketball was increased when the Cavaliers were doing well, and how it factors in when they're doing poorly, and or YSU basketball. They haven't. If YSU ever went on a men's basketball run where they made it to the tournament and played a couple games there, I think that would spark more interest, but who knows? I'm not sure.
You bring up an interesting point and a nice segue to Youngstown State. It's been an interesting year, to say the least, and a very eye-opening year in terms of the injuries, the biggest of which, Darius Quisenberry. You got 8 games left before the tournament. The Penguins will be home for 6 of those 8 games. They're obviously looking to get into the tournament and make a tournament run. It's been a weird year in that there was a lot of expectations, and this team has not lived up to the expectations for various reasons. But that's not to say that the Penguins in the final 8 games can't go on a serious run and make a serious tournament run to get to the position that they want to get, and that is the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you're right, and I think the expectations go out the window once with the COVID and the injury to Quisenberry, et cetera, and the way the games are being set up, the schedule's been set up. I think that back-to-back thing has much more of a factor. It's going to turn out to be much more of a factor than we thought. Just last week, YSU lost the first one on a buzzer beater, and they got to be crushed. They got to come back the next day and play, and they really did a great job, winning that second game on the Saturday. But I think that's part of it, is that because they know they've got 2 back-to-backs, they're going to have more incentive to win that second game than the other team. So I think that's a really interesting factor. We talked about it before, of course, that coaches have to figure out how to work that. And another thing, they're almost to the point where splits aren't good anymore. You want to sweep, especially at home, even though there's no fans to give you that home court advantage. So I think I haven't been able to find out this or not, if the Horizon League is allowing everyone into the conference tournament, or if they are limiting it. I know in the past it was 8 out of the 10, but I'm not sure.
From what I understand, Doug, they're going to let everyone in this tournament.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then what you really want to do is be playing well those last 2 weekends of the regular season, and going into the tournament, because that's if everybody's in, that's all it takes is just get a 3-game win streak going and or 4, and you're in the NCAA. So the women have just sort of sorted things out. They're playing much better, and I think that would have been, they were going to be on that natural curve anyway if they'd had a non-conference season before the league play started. So they're like in you'd expect them to be around Christmas. And the men's team has had different things happen, so it's not quite the same progression, but I think they'll get there. They're showing signs of it. And as long as they're playing well the last 2 weekends and into the tournament, they should be okay.
Doug Chapin, Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator sports editor, joining me as he does every Tuesday at this time on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Doug, neither one of us are experts when it comes to the virus and when it comes to the after effects of the virus, or how much the virus still lingers. But it seems to me that after a really rocky December, by and large, the area has done pretty well in terms of the virus. Now, there's a couple of programs and a couple of schools that are shut down for the present time because of COVID. As we go forward 3 and 4 weeks, where there's 3 weeks left before the girls' tournament, 4 weeks left before the boys' tournament, and into the spring, Doug, do you anticipate a tournament where everything should be okay, and by springtime, knock on wood, hope and pray that the spring athletes finally get an opportunity to play their sports?
I would hope so. I mean, I have no idea whether that's going to be the case or not. Who knows? The way these things work, you could be going fine for a while, and then boom, you hit. Excuse me, with a bunch of the teams missing out. So it's going to be hit or miss, I think. I think they will do everything they can to play the spring season, simply because they missed it last year. I think the attitude will be sort of like the NFL was this past year when the first teams started to have to, had a lot of people with COVID or in a situation where they were being, tested or whatever, they were doing the contact tracing. I think the Tennessee Titans were one of the first ones, and they infected the Ravens, if I remember. But the Ravens-Steelers game got postponed several times, and it caused all kind of problems, and it was a bad look for the NFL. And so the NFL sort of just decided, and I don't know if this was an official decision or what, but they just kind of said, we're not doing that anymore. We're playing the games. You got to get people, whatever team it is. If you don't have enough quarterbacks to play, you got to find one, like they did with the Broncos. And the Browns didn't have any receivers to play with, and they made them play. So I think the OHSA is going to be, it's going to be a similar situation. We're going to have the league. We're going to have the season. If you can play, play. If you can't play, then don't. And they'll leave it up to each. And they did a similar thing in the winter, too. They said, we're going to have the winter season. It's up to each school district to decide whether or not they want to play or can play.
Doug Chapin joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Doug, in recent years, traditionally, the Super Bowl has always had 2 weeks. You have the championship Sunday, which we recently concluded 2 days ago, and then you have a week off, and then you go into the Super Bowl. There's one Super Bowl that I can remember, and it was because of the first Gulf War, Super Bowl 25, where you did not have that 1 week in between Championship Sunday and Super Bowl Sunday. This year, it's been a very trying year for the National Football League, but give the credit to the NFL. They got all the games in, albeit there were some weird things that happened, but they got all the games in. Is this one of those years where the NFL should have said, hey, look, we're not going to have a week off between the Championship Sunday and the Super Bowl. Let's just play the Super Bowl 1 week after Championship Sunday. Let's get this season over with, and let's go from there. And I say this because Kansas City is not going to be flying in to Tampa Bay for the Super Bowl until the night before Super Bowl 55. They're not even going to be in Tampa during Super Bowl week. They will be flying in on a Saturday, the day before Super Bowl 55. And it just makes me wonder, why isn't the NFL or why didn't the NFL earlier in the season just sit back and say, hey, look, we're not going to be doing a Pro Bowl. That's out the window. So let's just play the Super Bowl 1 week after the conference championship games.
I don't know. I always thought that the extra week was to give the teams a chance to make sure they're healed up, so that both teams will be at their optimum as far as injuries goes. Whether they have any nagging injuries, or whatever, they can take care of those. I've always hated the week before the Super Bowl, where all the media hype and all that junk. I would always have preferred it to be the week right after, but it is what it is. They've always had it for 2 weeks, and whether Kansas City stays in Tampa or stays in Kansas City or goes to Tampa whenever, it doesn't matter to me. I think that's a wise thing to stay home, and where they're able to control everything, and all the testing is going to be done, and so, and I also wonder when they would have done that, when they would have made that change. You're saying during the season, what if the stadium wasn't available that weekend? I'm not, there are a lot of factors. I don't know. They don't like the NFL doesn't like to change things. Once they decide on something, they usually say, "Well, this is what we're doing," and because to them, I get the feeling, to the NFL, change means they were wrong, and they have to admit it, and they don't like to do that. So, I don't know. I hate the fact that there was 2 weeks. I've always hated that, but I don't know that changing it in the middle of the season would have, been the right thing to do. And maybe it would. I don't know. I just, I think probably a lot of media entities like it the way it is, and that probably factored into the decision.
Hey, Doug, before we let you go, last night at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, Cavaliers played the defending world champion Los Angeles Lakers. Cavaliers actually had a 2-point lead at the end of the third quarter, and then LeBron became LeBron James of old. Wound up scoring 20-some-odd points of his 46 points in the fourth quarter. Lakers beat the Cavaliers 115-108. I absolutely love what Kobe Altman and J.B. Bickerstaff and this organization is doing. I think that the rebuild of the Cavaliers is going along really nicely, and clearly this is a team that is on the rise in the National Basketball Association. And last night's game it pretty much showed that the Cavaliers they're a pretty solid basketball team, and better times are ahead for this organization.
I agree. I've been watching them this season, and I like what I see. They Bickerstaff is, he's been able to get Andre Drummond and JaVale McGee excited about playing. So he's doing a job. When they get everybody back, and I'm not necessarily meaning Kevin Love with that. I don't think he's part of the future. But they got Sexton back, and they got the other guard back, Darius Garland. I think they're solid. Now, Nance was missing last night too, and he's one of those guys that can really do a lot of things that help a team win. So they've got to learn how to win. They've got to learn how to play that fourth quarter, and that's something that takes some time for young guys to figure out. They've got some pieces still that they can trade during this season if they have to. I like what they've done. I agree with you that they're on the way. They just got to make sure that they avoid that debilitating injury to somebody, or that really bad move, trade, deal, whatever it is that they too often screws up a Cleveland franchise. But I think they're in a good position.
And then on the flip side, you look at the Indians, and I mentioned this in the first hour, and obviously the Indians are in a rebuild. I don't think there's any question about that. They're in a rebuild, and now there's talk that the Indians are in conversation with the Atlanta Braves regarding Jose Ramirez. And to me, this makes perfect sense. You're not going to get a bigger market or a better value for Jose Ramirez than right now, because if Jose Ramirez plays in Cleveland this year, there's not a team in Major League Baseball that's going to throw him a reasonably decent pitch, because frankly there's no one around Jose Ramirez that's going to protect him other than Franmil Reyes. So if you're going to trade Ramirez, you've already got two guys that can play third base. Either Jimenez can play third, Nolan Jones can play third, Rosario in a pinch can play third, and it's pretty clear that you can get a ridiculous amount of talent for Jose Ramirez right now. Now, there's conspiracy theorists that will say, well, Ramirez contract is through 2023. The stadium lease is up at the end of the 22 season. The TV rights are up at the end of the 22 season. The Indians they're going to leave Cleveland. They're just going to go to Nashville or some community other than Cleveland. Where do you think the Indians should go with this in regards to Jose Ramirez? Is it the opportunity now to trade him and get what you can for him and just have a complete rebuild underway?
I don't know, because the pitching staff they have is good enough to win or be competitive in a division. And I mean, I understand the reasoning for trading him, and if somebody gives you an offer that just says you got to take it, then I would go ahead and do it. I wouldn't trade him just to trade him. That's often why we see so many of these deals later in the season, because you want to see what kind of a start you get off to, and if you looks like you're competitive, you don't want to break that up. So I don't know. They're in a difficult situation in that they're at the limit of their spending abilities. They came close but didn't quite get there, and now they because with COVID, it's been a problem. The revenue is down big time, and they're still not any closer to getting to winning it all. So the question is, do you continue to try to stay to be competitive, or do you, trash it all and start all over again and work your way back up? I think, excuse me, I've always been of the opinion that I want my teams to try to be competitive, even if that means, finishing third in a 5-team league or whatever and being within, 8 games of first. I would take that as a fan. I know a lot of fans aren't happy unless you're competing to win it all. I don't know. It like you said, it's a tough place they're in. They could put a lot of money into it and still wouldn't work. Still wouldn't turn into a winner. So the obvious choice is to do like the Pirates are doing and just start all over. But that's so hard for fans to take. So we'll have to see. I guess I don't know what I would do in their situation either.
Doug, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you next week, brother.
All right, take care.
You got it. Doug Chapin, Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator sports editor, joining me as always on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. We're going to have Dan Bertolini coming on at 2:00, and we'll pose the same question. I mean, Dan's a huge Indians fan as well. Look, I'll just say it. I mean, if you're going to do this, do it now, because you're not going to get better market value for Jose Ramirez. This is a guy that finished, second or third in the MVP award last year? And I know a lot of people are going to sit back and go, it was a lost year last year. Well, it was still a baseball season. They still had the awards. They still had a World Series championship. I mean, okay, it was a lost season, but Ramirez was top 3 AL MVP. You're not going to get much more value for him than right now. And I'll continue to say this: if Ramirez is playing in the 2021 season, his market value is going to go into the toilet, comparable to where it is now. It's not going to get any higher than it is now, because there isn't a team in Major League Baseball that's going to pitch to this guy. They just won't. The whole lineup around him is below average. Why in the world would you pitch to this guy? I mean, unless, of course, the bases are loaded, and then obviously you got to pitch to him, but he's not going to see a reasonably decent pitch. So if I'm Cleveland, I'm gonna go into the same direction as Pittsburgh. And okay, is it time for us to blow this up officially and say we're going to rebuild our farm system and get a bunch of guys and hope and pray 2-3 years down the road that most of these guys are going to get into the major leagues and perform as well as we expect? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, that's what I'm going to do. And hopefully the arms that the Indians have will still be around when this team is ready to compete. But if the Indians do trade Ramirez, deal him to Atlanta. Atlanta's got a loaded farm system. Hopefully the haul back will be a great one, potentially long-term. All right, we'll take a timeout and be back with more. It is a Tuesday edition of Running Point. All kinds of games on the network tonight. I'll be in Crestview for the Crestview Camel game. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Rebels are hurting. No Tony Perazio tonight. No Jack Yerke tonight. Both kids battling some injuries. So the Rebels will be shorthanded. We'll see what that means tonight when they take on Camel tonight at Rebels Gymnasium. Larry and I will have the call somewhere around 7 o'clock. It's either going to be a little before or a little after. Hey, who knows? Maybe it's right at 7 o'clock. Who knows? We'll take a time out. Be back with more. Stick around.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
You know, it's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Local teams are heating up the hardwoods, and you can keep up with all the action on and off the court with Five Guys Hoop News all season long on 21 Sports.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Points, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline open for business, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. Last hour, Tony mentioning this is the 1 year mark. I don't even want to say anniversary because there's nothing to celebrate. Someone passing away is not an anniversary as far as I'm concerned. It's a 1 year reminder that 1 year ago today, Kobe Bryant lost his life in a helicopter crash, and the effect that it had not just on the sports world, but the effect that it had in pop culture as well. Just a tremendous loss, not only to the city of Los Angeles, but everywhere. It was just got to remember not being able to turn the TV off that day. It was just you kept watching the news and hoping and praying that this was an inaccurate story, or as some people are deeming, which I absolutely hate to my core when people say fake news. That's another story for another time. But I was hoping that it would have been an inaccurate story, and unfortunately, as everyone knows by now, it was not an inaccurate story, and that in fact did happen. And it just 1 year ago today. Ugh, horrible. All right, basketball on the network tonight. We got girls hoops, we got boys hoops. We made mention. COVID is if there's a good thing, and there, I don't think there is such a thing as a good thing, but for lack of a better term, if there is such a good thing with this, it's the fact that not only are you seeing boys basketball on a Tuesday night, every so often you'll get some girls games smattered in there as well. Same thing on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday is normally where you'll see girls basketball games. Tuesday and Friday, you'll normally see a boys basketball game. Saturday, both the boys and the girls can play a basketball game. You're seeing some girls games on a boys night, and you're seeing some boys games on what is normally a girls night. I mean, last night, Valley Christian went to Wellsville, played the Tigers in boys basketball. Tonight, we'll have Wellsville taking on United, which is going to take the place of the junior varsity game. I guess the JV game will be played at a later time. Wellsville and United will play a girls varsity matchup at 5:30. Also at 5:30 today, junior high boys basketball, as Buckeye Local will take on Edison. Buckeye Local taking on Edison, that game starting at 5:30. Boys basketball, varsity only tonight from the field house. South Range taking on Struthers. That game will start at 6 o'clock. Actually, I might be a little mistaken on this. This might be one of those situations where the JV games are only 2 quarters long, which, please stop this. Please, please, please stop the 2-quarter insanity. I don't understand it. I mean, I part of me understands it, but it's not helping the kids grow in the game of basketball. I don't understand, for the most part, why you would only play 2 quarters of a JV game. If you want to grow the product and you want to get the kids to play really good basketball, you got to play 4 quarters. You just have to play 4 quarters. I'm not a fan of 2-quarter junior varsity basketball. I'm not a fan of that at all. All right, here's your 7 o'clock games, and again, the JV games will start at 5:30, and give or take a couple of minutes in either direction. I guess we figure out whether the JV game lasts long or is a quick game. That'll determine the official start time for the 7 o'clock window. Ursuline is at Cheney. That should be a good game from the west side of Youngstown. Ursuline boys taking on the Cheney boys. Camel will visit Crestview. Niles is at Girard. Brookfield is at LeBray. Leetonia at Lisbon. McDonald home to Jackson Milton. Jefferson visits Poland. Ken Grisdale looking for his 500th career victory as the head basketball coach at Poland. Waterloo is at Springfield. That is going to be a really good game. Wellsville at United. Columbiana at Valley Christian. Sebring at Western Reserve. Warren JFK visiting Salem, and Austintown Fitch will travel to Louisville. All right, let's get to the phone lines. You're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on?
How you doing, my brother?
How goes it, Emmanuel?
Well, first of all, about those two-quarter JV games.
Yeah.
You still have to get X amount of quarters in to get your letter now. So come on now, everybody trying to get a letter.
No, I get that, but it's just it has nothing. It should have nothing to do with a letter and everything about getting your basketball in. Keep the JV games at 4 quarters.
Yeah, but let's talk. Let's bounce around and talk some sports here, right?
Yeah.
Now, first of all, I really feel remiss, and I think we should give a shout out. 900 rebounds. I mean, I don't care what level you're playing. If I'm a coach and you're a player and you give me 900 rebounds, whatever college you're at, I'm loving it. So, Mr. Bohannon, I think we should give him a shout-out, right?
Oh, there's no two ways about it. He is now YSU's all-time rebounding person on the D1 level. I guess there were some kids that played Division II that had more rebounds than Nas, but look, unless Nas Bohannon has no plans of playing next year or has plans of leaving Youngstown State after next year, he's going to get over 1,000 rebounds for his career at Youngstown State. That's unbelievable.
And that's somebody you just put on the floor and let him play. I mean, what he has meant. People may have got more rebounds at a different level, or whatever, but I don't care. 900 rebounds, that's getting it done.
Agreed.
Night in and night out.
Agreed.
And we need to give him a shout out. Now, the next thing, and I'm sitting here, I'm watching this is great football this weekend. I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm trying to not to picture you sitting in your chair, right? So, I'm in my lazy boy, and I got number one myself, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there watching the game. And then Buffalo lines up to kick a field goal. And I'm sitting there thinking, this going to be wide right?
Yeah.
And when he kicks it, it starts wide right.
I
then
know.
It comes back in. And then I think about you, right? You can't beat Kansas City kicking field goals.
Nope.
I'm like, okay. Then there's the fumble. Get the ball on the 1-2 yard line. Boom, you score. Now I'm like, wait, Buffalo might run away with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the doink.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was all downhill after the doink.
Your comment.
Yeah, well, it was all downhill after the doink. Look, I sat back, and one of the reasons why I was so mad at the play of Allen in the first half, and look, Josh Allen has been an unbelievable this year, and his improvement has been incredible. But in the first half, and it wasn't just Josh. I mean, the game plan was garbage from the start. The coaching staff was outcoached. But when I saw Buffalo jump out to a 9-0 lead, I was like, okay, Kansas City's going to make a run. They're going to make a run. So the secret is, if you're going to give up a touchdown, you got to go back down the field and score a touchdown. You got to sit back and put it in their minds. We ain't going anywhere, and we're going to keep this 9-point lead, and you're going to have to take this from our cold, dead hands, if I can quote Charlton Heston, if you want to win this ball game. And when Kansas City scored in the early part of the second quarter, I was like, all right, now it's time for the Bills to go down the field, not kick a field goal, score a touchdown. Well, they didn't do anything. And then Kansas City got the ball back, and they scored another touchdown. Now it's 14-9. And my thought was, all right, now you really got to go down the field, score a touchdown, and let's just not let this game get away. They didn't. And then Kansas City scored another touchdown, and it's 21-9. And now the Bills have the ball inside the 5, but the offense isn't clicking, even though this drive was pretty decent. And I thought, the coaching staff thought this as well. At the end of the half, 4th down, you're on the 3-yard line. It's 4th and goal. You got to get some points. If you don't score a touchdown here and you come away empty-handed, you're down 21-9 at halftime. Kansas City has the ball back. You're pretty much aware that you can't stop Kansas City. So you got to put points on the board here. I got no problems with them kicking the field goal at the end of the first half to make it 21-12. Where I knew the game was over, Kansas City goes down, kicks a field goal, albeit 45 yards away. I thought the Bills did a pretty nice job opening drive, second half, but give Butker credit. He was able to drill it from 45, so it's 24-9. And then the Bills have the ball inside the 10-yard line. When they kicked that field goal with 5:49 left in the third quarter, I knew right then and there the game was over. I was like, you guys are now just basically pissing away any opportunities for you to get back into the ball game. You can't kick a field goal and match Kansas City field goal for field goal. You got to score a touchdown. The secret of beating the Kansas City Chiefs, if they score, you got to score. If they score a field goal, you got to score a touchdown. You got to stop them, and then you got to score another touchdown. You cannot give Kansas City any breathing room whatsoever, or they will beat you. And unfortunately, after spotting the Bills a 9-0 lead, the Chiefs woke up. The Bills didn't, and Kansas City's a better team, and that's why they're in the Super Bowl, and the Bills are picking 30th in the draft, and they're not going to Tampa.
Well, before I want to talk about the Cavs, because I think they're doing something real crazy. You know, because they're getting ready to snatch a defeat out of the mouth of victory. But there's a reason why they call Tom Brady the GOAT. And I'm not going to let Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not going to let Buffalo's Mr. Allen off the hook. I'm not going to let them off the hook for this simple reason only. Now, the question was, how did Tom Brady beat them? Why did they play that defense? If you remember, they were getting ready to punt the ball. A timeout was called. Brady went over there and told Aaron, said, look here, we can get this. Let's run this play, right? And then we can try to go in the end zone.
Yeah.
And he convinced them. And guess what? They sent the offense back out.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers has the sachet that if he was to say, look, because I think he thought they was going to go for it on 4th down. If not, he would have ran that ball because he could have got to at least the 3-yard line instead of trying to throw that ball in a double coverage. He should have talked them into going for it. He's supposed to be a leader. He has the sachet. He has all that, the resume and everything.
Yeah.
And for him to say it wasn't my call, throw the coach up under the doggone bus, I'm not accepting that.
Well, I mean, you know, it's. I think Rodgers was being the good soldier, but I tend to agree with you. If I'm Rodgers, I'm pretty much an inch and a half from the nose of the head coach and saying, "Are you a bleeping moron? Go for it," because this right here is the reason why we aren't a Super Bowl team. I would have been livid on the sidelines. I'd have been an inch and a half from my coach's nose saying, "You're a freaking moron if you kick this field goal." If I'm a Packer fan, I'm pissed. I'm still pissed at what the Packers did. And Rodgers, after the game on Sunday, Rodgers was making a comment, I think a lot of us have to sit back and wonder what the future holds, myself included. Don't think for a second Aaron Rodgers was saying that because he was mad at a decision. No. Aaron Rodgers is not a happy camper, and he does not want to play for Green Bay anymore. And it would not surprise me if Aaron Rodgers at some point before next season sits back and says, I'm going to retire from this game unless you people trade me.
Yeah, okay, now I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the Cavaliers. And it could be said, if not the best, they'd have to have probably one of the top 5 front lines in the NBA. I mean, other than the Freak, right? I don't think there's no other center playing better than Drummond. Now, I don't think AD's a center. Now, you can call him a center, but you got you got him in the middle, and you got McGee, he's just an athlete. You got Larry Nance, you got Zeddy, and you got other players coming off the bench. Why would the Cavaliers? Now, I'm okay with them. Saying it makes sense maybe the trade Kevin Love, but if you can't get rid of Love, you're getting rid of McGee. Why? Because he's not part of the future. I mean, JaVale McGee isn't going to be in the long term. JaVale McGee is not going to be part of the future. And I'll be honest. I mean, the Cavs are good, but they're not going to be competing for an NBA championship anytime soon. Now, I believe they're a playoff team, and I believe they could pull off an upset and go to the conference semifinals. But I don't think that they're going to sniff Brooklyn or Philly or Boston or Milwaukee. I don't think they're in that. I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to being an existential threat of winning the conference. Now, if you trade McGee where his market value is where it is, and you get as much as you possibly can for him. Because he's balling, McGee's balling right now. Absolutely, and that's why I think that the Cavs are going to take advantage of this and say, okay, his market value right now is at a point where we could get something pretty good in return, and preferably young, whether it be draft capital or otherwise. What would you be looking for? Well, I would be looking at a 3, or I would be looking at some more backcourt help. I mean, obviously, Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, they're very much part of the future. Dylan Windler, I love this kid's game. Unfortunately, with Kevin Porter Jr., things didn't work out. He's now with the Houston Rockets. He's happy. Yeah, and he'll be a good player as long as someone gets to him and says, "Look, this is your last opportunity. You need to make the most of it." And I think John Lucas will. They glad Harden's out of town, man. They okay. Yeah, they'll turn this kid around. And I think if the Cavaliers can get a young 2-guard or a draft capital where they can get a 2-guard, I think that this team is close. I think this team is reasonably close to getting toward the top tier of the Eastern Conference. They're still a ways away, and I think that's why McGee is rumored to be dealt. Now, if anyone wants to take Love's contract, then obviously Kobe Altman gets executive of the year, and it's not even close. Love would fit in great with the Nets. He would fit in great. Oh, sure he would. But then you run into okay, are you over the cap? Are you going to be playing? Are you going to be paying luxury tax? I mean, what do you give up? If New Jersey or Brooklyn, has already given up most of their young capital with Allen and they're trying to win now. They're trying to win now. Well, I know they are, but they don't have their young capital left. That's why it doesn't make any sense, because they don't have the young capital that the Cavaliers are looking for. Now, if you trade Love away to, let's say, a Utah team, Utah's 12-4 right now.
If they have visions of grandeur and you want to bring back a guy that I absolutely love and would love to see him in a Cavaliers uniform again as part of a return back, and that would be Jordan Clarkson, yeah, I'll take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't know. Clarkson happy. But let's move on real quick because you're coming to the top of the hour. Now, I want to talk to you about this MASH unit that we call the New York Yankees starting pitchers. Now, out of the three, if you could pick two out of the three, which two you think might have a halfway decent season and why you think the third one might not? Now, the three we choose are Louis, right?
Yeah.
Jameson.
Yep.
And Corey.
Well, there's only one that I think is going to have a solid year, and that's Severino. The other two are question marks right now. Kluber's a question mark because, frankly, I don't know if he can stay healthy, and Taillon's a question mark because he's coming off his second Tommy John surgery. Now, the Yankees, apparently the Yankees believe that Taillon has a very good chance of coming back. And if he does, then I think Taillon, because of his youth, is probably the guy that would be ahead of Kluber. You and I had this conversation when Jameson Taillon was acquired from the Yankees. First of all, the Yankees did not give up their top 2 or 3 prospects. They did not go top shelf to give up some talent. Not that they gave Pittsburgh a bunch of garbage. They gave Pittsburgh some talent. They just didn't go top shelf with their minor league talent. Having said that, the aspect or the prospect of Garrett Cole is your 1, Severino is your 2, Taillon is your 3, Kluber is your 4, and either Montgomery or one of the other kids at number 5, or you flip-flop and have Kluber at the 5. The New York Yankees just got really, really good in the starting rotation. They just got really good. And the X factor in all of this is Kluber. And I think one of the reasons why the Yankees picked up Kluber was the very same reason why the Indians kept Kluber all those years and then finally traded him away to Texas when the young kids were into the major leagues. Not to mention the fact Kluber was a pretty damn good pitcher. But Corey Kluber is not afraid to show kids what they need to do and lead by example and showing the kids how you go about your business and do whatever. That's the biggest reason why the Yankees signed Kluber to a contract.
Well, I totally agree with that. He's at least a pitching coach waiting to happen, but he might even be later on a skipper material, and so I'm okay with that. But the thing is, I don't know. I'm still not. I don't know. I don't know about Louis. I just don't know. And it seems to me that we're rolling the dice here. We didn't give up much. We haven't spent big money. But geez, man, the stars have to line up just right, and the planets have to be just right for everything for us to work.
You're already better than where you were 3 years ago.
That ain't saying much.
Well, that's true, but you're already better. But you're already better than where you were 3 years ago. So, I mean, look, if your offense comes aboard and scores 5-6 runs a game, these guys are going to win ball games for you. It's they may have ERAs north of 4, but they'll win a boatload of games because that offense will carry you. I like what the Yankees have done. I really do. I like what the Yankees have done.
Okay, this is the last thing, and I'm going to let you go. And, you may call me a homer, and I know we've only won one game, but I'm starting to like what I'm seeing with the Warren G. Harding boys basketball team. They might make some noise in the tournament.
I agree with you. I think Warren Harding is look, I mean, they were behind the 8 ball just like the rest of the Trumbull County schools. Get these kids as many games as possible. About 2 or 3 weeks before the tournament, this team is going to start playing much, much better basketball, and I agree with you. I think Warren Harding is going to make a decent run in the tournament. Now, does that mean they win a district championship? Probably not. Do they get into the districts? There's a good chance of that happening. My brother. Thanks for taking my call, man. All right, man. See you. 330-886 0813. Dan Bertolini coming up next. Stick around.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local, independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford and drive home in a new or pre-owned vehicle. Choose from our great selection of new Ford models or pre-owned vehicles. Plus, get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. And joining me on this chilly Tuesday afternoon to talk some baseball, and why not? Because we're so damn close to YSU baseball, the skipper of the Youngstown State University baseball program, Dan Bertolini. Dan, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Ron. Isn't that chilly?
Well, I mean, you know, it's penguin weather. It's
it's 40 out there. That's like a summer day for us.
Well, get the barbecue out. That's right. Yeah. Now, let me ask you. When you guys are practicing in weather like this, do you go outside if the conditions are dry, or are you mainly trying to get everyone to get a full day's work in the Watts Center?
Oh no, we'll be outside today. We'll be outside for at least some of it. We usually try to go out. Right now we're still in our 8-hour-a-week individual session, so we'll be out there for about a half hour today.
Let me ask you, when you guys, the 8-hour-a-week, when does the NCAA lift that and allow you guys to start practicing regular, normal practice load?
So right now you do 4 hours a week you can do individual instruction, and then 4 hours a week is for the weight room, and that ends Friday. Friday is the first day that we're allowed to officially start team practice. That goes into our 20 hours a week moving forward. So we've been going now since we got back to campus for our 8 hours, and then we'll start 20 hours on Friday. Looking forward to it.
Obviously, a lot of hitting in the cages and with fielding, some things you can do in the Watts Center. But I mean, let's be honest, the Watts Center is gorgeous, and when you got knee deep in snow, it's vital for the baseball team. But it's completely different once you go outside into the elements. So you take advantage of as many somewhat decent winter days as possible and get outside on the turf at Stambaugh.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we've been on the turf over at Cafaro Field, which is the new turf facility built across from Ursuline.
There you go.
We get out there on the turf as much as possible. We just want to. Actually, it was Michigan at the convention. I heard them talk. Their coach Backage, and he was talking about how their guys were out on the turf the year they went to the College World Series, played in the national championship versus Vanderbilt, and they were basically saying they were outside as much as possible. And so from that point forward, we've tried to go out as much as possible, no matter what the temperatures are in relative. If it's 15 degrees out, we're not going to be out there. But for the most part, if it's really above 30 degrees, we're pretty much out there, just trying to get acclimated to the weather and the conditions, because those are what we're going to be playing in. And I think it breeds a little bit of toughness for our guys, just when that day comes and we're playing in 35-degree weather, which we will. We're used to it, and it doesn't affect us.
It's a stigma that the northern schools have, where obviously in the north, in the wintertime, you simply don't have nearly as many days, really solid days, as the brothers and sisters down south do or out west do, which is one of the reasons why historically your schools in Arizona, California, south of the Mason-Dixon line, they tend to be a little more covered because of the fact that they have a lot more days where you can have reasonably nice days and get a lot more done in better weather.
Yeah, I mean, we're still not able to, inter squad on the field, be outside really seeing live at bats outside or live game plays, outside, but we're still able to get some work in. But yeah, it's an advantage obviously to be able to, even in your 8 hours a week, being able to do 30 minutes or an hour a day outside inter-squatting against each other. I mean, that's obviously the most game-like you're going to get. So if we could do that'd be great. But we're in a good spot. We use any of that as an excuse. Our guys will be prepared and we'll be ready to go. I think a few years ago, probably a little longer than a few years ago, but when they implemented the mandatory or the universal start date for everybody, they tried to put things, on the same page for everyone. Because back in the day, it used to be, I think it was January 1st or whatever it was, February 1st, you could start playing games. So there'd be teams, you'd go down and play your first game, and there'd be teams that had, 10 games in before you had your first one. And well, now it's a little more universal. Everyone starts the same day as far as the games start, and so that's kind of slowly even the playing field a little bit.
Oh, there's no question about that, and I think that was one of the better decisions the NCAA made to make sure that everyone was starting on an even playing field, knowing full well that the South has better weather in the wintertime, and they'll have somewhat of an advantage when the opening day comes around, but at least you don't have that really horrible discrepancy that we'd seen in the past.
Yeah, and the advantage that the teams in the southern schools have is they get to play their games at home. So everyone they're playing is traveling opening weekend to go play, or the opening couple weekends. The northern schools all travel because of the weather. So they end up playing 35, 40 of their games at home, which is definitely still an advantage, but at least we're, as far as practice time goes and game start time goes, we're on an even playing field.
Dan Bertolini, the manager of the Youngstown State University baseball squad, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Certainly, live batting is essential, and the beautiful thing is, you go into a cage, you're going to be able to get live batting, whether it's someone pitching the ball or you have the pitching machine. Just the hand-eye coordination and the hitting in the cage, that is incredibly important, and something that, frankly, can be done whether it's inside or outside. Yeah,
our guys hit off the machine. We have some of the best pitching machines you can have, with the ability to change, pitches in the middle of a bat so it can throw, fastballs, breaking balls, change-ups all in the course of, without having to do anything or leave the cage. The machine does it on its own. So we get, live at bats. We set the machine up to a certain mile per hour, so we know the fastball is going to be, low to mid 90s, and the breaking ball is going to be sharp and good, and our guys don't know what's coming, and we put them in situations and, be able to kind of simulate game-like things when we're not hitting off of our pitchers. But our pitchers will start live at bats. On Saturday, we'll start facing our pitchers live and inter-squatting. We usually try to do that on the weekends, where we'll play, good 9 innings a day on Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully by the time we get to the season, our hitters have had, 30 or 40, game at bats against our pitchers, and then as well as, hundreds and hundreds of at bats in the machine, off the machine. So we're usually, hopefully in a good spot when day one starts.
Dan, is the inter-squad games on the weekend, the reason being of most of your games are going to be played on the weekend, and you just want everyone to get used to the idea of playing baseball on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Well, we do face live at bats during the week, but no, mainly because that's probably our biggest time. Everyone's there, no classes, so we have all of our players there on the weekends. During the week, there's still times where certain pitchers can't be there during certain days because of class times, or certain hitters can't be there because of classes. So, and there's a lot more going on in the Watts during the week. You have other teams participating, practicing. You have, track and softball and baseball, and there's a lot of. We only have half of a field, so that makes it a little bit different. So on the weekends, typically we have the full facility, so we're able to get a little more space and make it more realistic for our players.
Well, and it certainly helps to have the Watts Center, and obviously not just the baseball team. Everyone, practically everyone, has used this unbelievable facility, and probably a big reason why Youngstown State Athletics have made a trending upward is the fact that you have this absolutely gorgeous facility that everyone's been able to use.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to be able to train. We're fortunate to have it, and honestly, this year with COVID, it's limited anybody else's use, because a lot of times other high schools or other people rent our facility out on the weekends, or there's more things going on. So it allowed us to even have better time, more time in there. So we're looking forward to continuing to it's helped our community, helped our athletic department immensely. I know back in the day, probably 10, 15 years ago, a lot of these practices were happening in the upper decks of Beagley, and the conditioning was happening, running around the upper deck area of the Beagley Center and practicing on the gym floor. So, we're fortunate that we're in the situation that we're in.
Dan, you made mention of the class schedule, and it's obviously when you have kids, and some of them are on a reasonably large baseball scholarship. I mean, here's a little tidbit for everyone. The kids that have a baseball scholarship, hardly any of them have a full ride baseball scholarship, if not any of them. Baseball is not a full ride scholarship type of deal at Youngstown State and a bunch of other places. So you have kids going to class, and unfortunately, sometimes the class, depending on how important that class is in pertains to the kid's major or their credit hours toward graduation, you could see some guys missing some practices because of the classroom.
Yeah, and we're not the only school in the country dealing with it, but our players, we put a premium on academics as well as athletics, and certain majors only have classes scheduled during certain times, and you need that class to be able to graduate or stay on track to graduate. It's a major course. A lot of our engineering majors have have classes during the day. We have some nursing majors that have some things going on throughout of it. Shoot, Joel Hake is a now 6th-year senior nursing major, but his 4th year here, he was doing his clinicals during our spring season, so he was missing a ton of practice and having to drive sometimes, drive with himself, with his parents to our games, or we had to get a extra flight for him to come down separately because he had to be in the hospital, for 12 hours. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes for our athletes that I don't think everyone necessarily knows. But they're committed, and they don't do it because they have to. They do it because they love to, and it's an important part of their experience here at Youngstown State. But it is challenging. It's 2 full-time jobs for our players, and I would advise anyone that wants to go play at the next level at college, that you love what you do, because it is going to test you. None of our guys are on full scholarships. You only have 11.7 scholarships to divide up amongst 27 scholarship players. So you're looking at, the average college scholarship in baseball is about 40%. And, there's guys that are on 25%, there's guys that are on 60%, but for the most part, academics is so important when you're looking at, that financial piece for college, because the better academically you are, the more money you can get on the academic side. It makes that, those scholarships stretch a little bit further. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm happy. We recruit guys that are good students that can handle everything that's going on, and especially when we start traveling and moving around, it does make it difficult. But I think you're just in the situation. You don't even realize what you're doing at the time and how difficult it is, probably until it's over.
And the other thing, if you're going to be playing college baseball, you better be smart. Because you're not going to go to Youngstown State if you're not taking taking time to give a great effort in the classroom. I know you guys aren't going to be interested in any player that doesn't excel in the classroom. You might excel in your chosen sport, but you better be able to excel in the classroom, or you're not going to get much interest at Youngstown State.
Yeah, we want guys that want to be excellent at everything they do, and whatever they're doing at the current time, that's the most important thing that we could be doing. So if you're in the classroom or you're studying, that's the most important thing you could be doing at that moment. We just try to our guys hopefully stay present wherever they are. You are where your feet are. And, when you're at practice, you better be locked in on what we're doing at practice. And when you're in the classroom, you can't be thinking about practice or games. You got to be thinking about, executing the game plan on your academic side, studying, taking your tests, being able to, accomplish assignments. That's when it's a red flag when certain people don't put the effort in on the academic side, just because it gets so much harder the further you go along. If you're having trouble staying focused in high school and being able to excel academically, it's going to be that much harder when you get here, and it's going to be a lot of work. So, not that you can't play at this level if you're maybe not the greatest high school student right now, but it is going to be exceptionally harder. And we find the guys that struggle in high school tend to struggle academically even more when they get to college. So that is an important part, and that's not just for us. That's really for any of the baseball programs in the country.
Dan, one of the lasting memories that I had in a very shortened 14-game season, we were in Charleston, South Carolina, and we were taking on a mid-major baseball team, and at middle game of the series, there was a Starbucks nearby, and you go over and you see all of these kids with a book in their hand, reading things while sipping their overpriced coffee, or their overpriced pastries, and they've got a book in their hand and they're getting their work done. It reminded me that yes, these kids are playing college baseball, but their responsibilities are not just college baseball. Their responsibilities are also in the classroom, and it was good to see all of these kids with a book in their hand, getting their classroom studies done on a road trip.
Yeah, and I think we even ended up that trip when we were waiting. I think we ended up at Barnes and Noble or one of those places with our guys doing some work there. And we have study hall on the road where we have certain time frames where guys that have certain GPAs have to be in there doing their work. But for the most part, those guys, they ask us to go to those places. They ask us to get them, places where they can have a quiet area to study and get their work done, because it is hard. When you're on a bus or you're in an airport, it's tough to really focus and get your work done. So, it's important. I mean, you can't stress it enough. Student athlete, student is the first part of it, and without that student part, the athlete part doesn't come. So you have to be able to take care of yourself in the classroom so you can best prepare yourself for. And the ultimate goal of our program, obviously, is to win and to put guys, we want guys to go play, continue their athletic careers if possible, go play in the professional level. But at the end of the day, we're trying to prepare them to be the best people that they can be, and they can be successful wherever they go, whether it's, whether it's in the financial world or a doctor or a teacher or whatever their profession might be when they're done playing baseball, that they are the most well prepared when they leave our program and are good representatives of our program for the rest of their lives. So that's all part of being a student athlete.
Dan Bertolini, the manager of the YSU baseball program, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline, and you brought up the afterlife of college baseball. Look, it's no secret Major League Baseball has shortened their draft to 20 rounds, and leads me to believe that we're about to have a dawn of really, really good college baseball in the next few years, starting with this year. And if COVID did anything, it's just improving the game that much more with the fact that most of the seniors get another opportunity this year. You're about to see the dawning of some really, really good college baseball. And with that comes Major League Baseball in the Draft League. It's a 6-team league in which the Mahoning Valley Scrappers are going to be one of the 6 teams where kids are going to ultimately be invited to this league to, for lack of a better term, raise their stock in the upcoming 2021 Major League Baseball draft, which will be held All-Star Weekend down in Atlanta. Something to shoot for if you're a senior or a junior who is draft eligible. Have a really good year. All of a sudden, you might get invited to this league.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I'm happy for the Scrappers and for amateur baseball still that they're able to kind of combine. And I think Prep Baseball Reports also kind of running this league. They've been on the forefront of sort of that recruiting side of things for a while. And I think it's a great experience for those players to play against some of the best competition in the country. There's actually, I think the Appalachian League is doing this as well. So there'll be 2 leagues sort of running basically like a Cape Cod League, with some of the best college talent in the country. I think the league that the Scrappers are in are supposed to be the top 150 draft eligible players that are going to be in that league. So it should be exciting, and it's something to shoot for our guys. I know we have some players already committed to the Appalachian League, and hopefully we'll have a few guys that will end up in the draft league here. And but there's it's limited. You really have to. I think Division I baseball, all the guys that play, only 1% of those guys end up making it to play Division I. And then you're looking at 1% of those players are going to make it on and go play professionally. So it's the best of the best. And but the nice thing about college baseball is you can be from anywhere and make it. If you can play, they will find you. These are just some extra leagues and that are going to help you continue to grow and hopefully make it to that next level. Because of the draft moving back into July, it allows those guys that don't make maybe the Super Regionals or the College World Series, those guys, those few months, that month there from June into July, where they can go ahead and compete and show their skills off, and it'll be very heavily scouted and basically all the information directed towards Major League Baseball, so they'll have a good look at everyone that's in that league.
I'm assuming the league is going to be a wooden bat league because pro baseball
Yeah.
is going to be going wooden bat. And that just leads to the conversation that I think has been long overdue for quite some time. Now, obviously, I understand the reasoning why college baseball has not gone to a wooden bat, and its cost, it's monetary. Is there a point in time, Dan, and do you think that the NCAA is going to embrace and partner up with the Draft League and the Appalachian League and sit back and go, okay, we understand that, the track to the pros, you're going to be dropping the aluminum bat and you're just going to be using a wooden bat if you're an everyday player. Everything else remains the same. Is there a point in time where Major League Baseball and the NCAA come together and make an agreement, a long overdue agreement, that, hey, maybe we'll support you guys and give some wooden bats to have a wooden bat league in college baseball?
I doubt it. I mean, I really do. I think if you can hit, you can hit. If you hit 20 homers in college, you can hit home runs. I don't think it's not like it was back 15 years ago when, even 20 years ago when guys were using, bigger barrel bats and the ball was, the balls were flying out of Rosenblatt Stadium. People were hitting, 50 homers in college. Like it's very much the bats they'll use at the college level are very similar to wood bats. You're not getting cheap home runs for the most part with these bats. So I think from a scouting perspective, they have so much advanced analytics and so much advanced scouting that they understand. They can look at your swing. They can get your numbers. They can understand if you can hit for power, hit for if you can hit for average, you can hit for average. You can use a telephone pole or a wiffle ball bat and still be able to hit. So I think a lot of that goes down to it's also tradition, and it's kind of a fun atmosphere, that ping of the bat. It's been college baseball for a long period of time, but I do think it's cost. There's some wood bats that they use at the professional level that are $200 for a wooden bat. Where we're getting our metal bats for that price, and they last a lot longer. So you could take one swing with a $200 wood bat, and it's going to be laying in pieces in the woodshed. So I do think that just the cost efficiency of the wood bats is going to be just going to really be hard to do at the college level.
Dan Bertolini, the manager of the YSU baseball program, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline. As we get set for the upcoming season, we made mention on a number of occasions with the spring season cut short, everyone gets a redo, and you've got most of your seniors back from last year. Not a whole lot of roster spots to be won, which not a bad thing for the young kids, and some of them may very well be redshirted and have 4 years of eligibility left at Youngstown State University, and that's not a bad thing. And some of the kids, some of the freshmen and the sophomores, they got their feet wet last year. They may very well get a lot more playing time, depending on how they wow you in practice.
Yeah, there's still a lot to be decided, I guess, in the next few weeks. We have we are constantly evaluating our guys, and in the next 3 weeks, so there'll be some time to continue to show improvement. And but it is fortunate. We are fortunate this year where we feel really good about. We return every one of our starters positionally, and all of our starting pitchers, and almost all of our bullpen. So we literally returned everyone off of last year's team, minus I think 3 players. So we've added some new guys that have added in the mix. We've got a few guys that were injured that are back healthy. So we're pretty much at full strength. I mean, we have a few guys that do typical bumps and bruises that happen throughout the season. But I really think that we're in a really, really good spot. This is the first time in a long time, really, since I've been here, where I feel we feel really confident with the group that's coming back. There's not a lot of question marks. We don't have a lot of, there's going to be some, we're very deep, we're talented, so makes my job harder, figuring out, who's going to play where and what's the best situation for them. But as far as, positions to be won, there's probably not a whole lot going on there. So it's exciting. And now it's just a matter of managing COVID and managing, sort of all the protocols that go into it, and making sure our guys are staying healthy and staying out of quarantine, and trying to really stay inside of our bubble so we don't have guys that can't play because of exposure, because they've gotten the virus. So I know all the other sports have kind of gone through it. So, those will be the situations that arise that we'll have to really be tricky with.
Couple more things before we let you go. Obviously, there is going to be a lot of excitement with YSU baseball, and I have the sneaking suspicion that you guys are going to be in the upper half in the preseason poll. When the Horizon preseason poll comes out, you guys will be in the upper half of that. Can you learn a lesson from the YSU men's basketball team where an awful lot of expectation was there? And unfortunately, with injuries and a bunch of other things, Youngstown State's men's basketball team not living up to, at least for right now, not living up to the expectations. Is there a lesson to be learned in that, and is that something that you're going to try to share with the baseball team prior to the start of the baseball season?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is more just maturity. Our guys have been through it. Some of these guys have been through a lot of highs and lows when they've been here. They've seen expectations, and they've seen them change. And I don't think we've been in so many big situations. We've played so many good teams over the years. Whether it's, I think I looked, there's probably 8 teams in the top 25 this year that we've played in the time that all of these players have been here, whether it's Louisville or Georgia Tech or Mississippi State, Florida State. We got LSU on the schedule this year. Houston was in the. So our guys have been put in a lot of those tough situations and tough on the road. And so I do think that, those are outside expectations. Those are our inside expectations. Our inside expectations inside of our program have never changed. We always expect our guys to go out and compete at a high level, play the game the right way, we kind of play with a little bit of our chip on our shoulder. We kind of embrace the toughness that Youngstown brings, and I think our guys are ready to, no matter what outside people think, we've always thought of ourselves as a great program, and we have something to prove. And I think, when we talked in the off season last year after the season was over, kind of reflecting, doing our individual meetings, I really wanted to drive home, even though we had a good start to the season and, we had some good wins and we played well on the road. We were 7-7 when the season ended. We weren't 14-0. And so there's a lot of things that we can improve on, a lot of things to get better on. We're not satisfied with where we were from last year. And I think that, our players understand that things can be taken away from you very quickly. And last year, that season got taken away very quickly. Our seniors is their last go no matter what. And so I think they understand that we take every day, we cherish every day we get a chance to be around each other and get to play with each other. And so I think that really pushes us to greatness, not really, the preseason rankings or what other people think. It is nice to, I honestly, you look at what we're returning and how we did last year and where our pitching staff was in the Horizon League. Like, we should be in the top, however many teams in the Horizon League preseason. But that's we have to prove it on the field. Those guys have to perform at a high level. They have to train at a high level. They have to, take care of their bodies at a high level. And if we can do that, then I do think that, success will come with that.
It's more fun to get ready for a baseball season when you know that there are really good things on the horizon, pun intended, being that you're in the Horizon League. And instead of being a team that is starting a rebuild, or that you're not going to be competing on the same level that this team is hopefully going to compete on. And I guess the one thing that I want to ask you before we let you go, and this now pertaining to the team that we are both very much a fan of, and that would be the Cleveland Indians. it would appear the Indians are going to go full-blown rebuild. Jose Ramirez, there is now talk that he's going to get traded to the Atlanta Braves, which in the grand scheme of things, I'm good with it because you're not going to get anything higher for Jose Ramirez right now than where he is market value. Top 3 player in the American League in terms of the MVP last year. And if he plays this year and you try to trade him away in the trade deadline, his market value is going to be nowhere where it is right now because who in their right mind is going to pitch to this guy? There's nobody else in the lineup. You don't need to pitch to Jose Ramirez. I wouldn't throw him a fastball at any point in any time during the course of this season because there's nobody there to protect him. So if I'm the Indians, I'm saying, you know what? If you give me what I believe Jose Ramirez is worth on this market, let's do the trade right now and go full-blown rebuild.
My heart hurts. I look at it and say, what are we doing? I mean, I get it. They're super smart. They, it's a great front office. They've put together one of the best teams in Major League Baseball over the last 10 years. Really, since 1994, they've been one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, minus a couple of years. So it's hard for me to say, I don't trust what they're doing. But from a fan's perspective, I look at it and say, I don't even know what to think. You want to get rid of Jose Ramirez. Now you're going to have not one player that anyone really knows who they are. I mean, you have zero star power. I mean, it's going to take a long time. And for a team that was already struggling in attendance, to really kind of wow the fans, I think the general fan's going to be really upset that this is happening. Now, I do think they probably have a plan, and they're much smarter than we are. And I don't know what that plan is, but hopefully it works. And in a couple of years, they're back to being, kind of where they were. Because they did something similar to this right before they had Terry Francona. They kind of took it apart and rebuilt it, and it worked out pretty well for them. But man, it's tough to lose all of those guys that Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor, Brad Hand, Kipnis, you lost. All the guys that have made Cleveland great in the last 10 years, and they're gone. So it's going to be real interesting, especially if they're at the bottom of the American League standings this year. The enthusiasm behind the Indians is going to be at an all-time low since probably before I was born.
No truth to the rumor they're going to go to the California Penal League and sign some guy named Wild Thing.
Ricky Vaughn.
Yeah, give him the heater, Ricky. Well, hey, look on the bright side. At least you got the Browns to root for.
Yeah, and we all know that the Browns are on the upswing, and hopefully now the future of the AFC. I know they're definitely better than those Pittsburgh Steelers, right?
You're trying to get me into a middle of a conversation with you and DJ. Now, come on now. I wasn't born. I was born, but I wasn't born yesterday, although my head is going up and down in agreement that, yes, the Browns will be better than the Steelers next year, and they are on the upswing. But you still have a team in the other side of Lake Erie that is better than you.
Yeah, I think it would have been a really interesting AFC championship.
It would have been fun
if the Bills and Browns would have played. I think they were both evenly matched. It would have been a fun game.
It would have been an awful lot of fun, and I can tell you right now, they would not have played a soft zone defense against Cleveland, which I screamed at for most of the ball game. Get out of the zone! Get out of the zone! Well,
as good as Josh Allen played this year, it looked like maybe the moment was a little too big. He just struggled a little bit.
He was back to bad habits in the first half, but I thought he showed some guts, and the whole team showed some guts in the second half. But they got some things they got to work on. There's no two ways about it, and I think it's going to be fascinating because you got 4 or 5 teams that are very tightly bunched together, awaiting a shot at the kings of that conference, which is Kansas City. So there's 4 or 5 teams. I think Buffalo, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Tennessee, Pittsburgh. They're all kind of bunched up in that nice little pile. And Miami is getting there. New England is going to be there before too long. And all of these teams are going to be vying for that opportunity to take that shot against Kansas City. So
it should be, and just a lot of young quarterbacks that are playing at a really high rate in the AFC with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield. You're going to have whoever it is in Miami, whether it's Tua. So it should be a whole lot of fun football. But I'm just glad that the Browns hopefully have turned the corner, and they were really exciting to watch. And same with the Bills, they were really exciting to watch this year. So brought a lot of enjoyment and enthusiasm back to Cleveland. And no matter what happens, I love the Indians, but it's a Browns town. And, when the Browns are good, Cleveland is, the city of Cleveland, just better.
I'd just love to see all three of them good at the same time. I mean, that would be that would be a nice wish, or at least for me.
We were close.
Yeah. Indians, Bills, Cavs, Indians, Browns, Cavs. Just have all three of them good at the same time. That would be phenomenal.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So hopefully, the Indians get it figured out. As I'm looking at a book that President Tressel gave me, The Curse of Rocky Colavito, sitting on my desk. So
we'll see what happens, brother. I look forward to the season. I look forward to seeing you guys playing ball this year. And best of luck. And we'll keep talking to you on a weekly basis as we get closer and closer to the start of the season in early February. And it won't be long before we start talking about the wins that you guys are going to have this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you next week.
All right, see you. That is the manager, the guy that runs the YSU baseball program. That is Dan Bertolini joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. We will take a timeout. On the other side, we'll open up the phone calls, open up the phone lines, 330-886-0813. Plenty of high school basketball on the network tonight. I'll be at Crestview for the Rebels game against Camel. Should be entertaining. Rebels are without two of their starters, and actually three of their starters are going to be out. So this is going to be rather interesting to see how many kids get a whole lot more playing time starting tonight with the Crestview boys basketball team. No Perazio, no Yerke, and I believe no Janssens as well. It's going to be interesting to say the least.